Welcome back, beautiful people of the podcasting universe and world. This is the Three Amigos podcast, back with another edition. My name is Frankie, Christopher Langsdorff.
Should we
Yeah,
explain like what
yeah,
so so CM Punk, current AEW champion, Jon Moxley interim champion. Punk randomly came back seemingly out of the blue, I think like a couple weeks ago.
hmm
And then they were going to unify the titles at the upcoming All Out pay-per-view. I think it's All Out, it's the next one.
yeah.
And then I forget the exact order of which of these two things happened first, but there were two events. One of them was that the match was moved from the pay-per-view to free TV tonight, just
Yeah.
now, just happened
Just
like
now,
10 minutes
you
ago.
and I watched it. We saw it. We had our live reactions.
Yeah, there was no real explanation given as to why they did this. This is a very strange thing to do when you only have one major championship.
Yeah.
It's not like WWE where there's like two universal titles or whatever,
hmm
like that sort of thing. And the other thing that occurred was that it came out, potentially leak, shoot, work, we don't know, that CM Punk was unhappy with his booking, with AEW and Tony Khan and all that sort of stuff. And so I can't quite remember which one of those things happened first, if like the stuff about
It,
Punk came out and then they
it
moved the match.
it was kind of simultaneous.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
pretty close together.
yeah.
So they scheduled the match for tonight,
Yep.
and Frankie and I thought, I mean, I was certainly surprised to see that the match was happening at like 9 p.m. I had
Yeah.
been watching a little bit of the show, so I didn't know what matches already happened.
Yeah.
Uh,
I didn't have enough time, or I just was. It flew over my head to let you know, and also you like disappeared for a bit because I knew you were working, and I guess you were getting ready for dinner and stuff. So I didn't message you saying
yeah,
like, "Yo, the match is up," or I actually did send it. I said the match is up next, but I'm sure you were like, "Oh,
yeah.
the show's probably ending, right?" And like, nope, it's not. Like, there's still the trios match, which is happening right now as we speak.
Yeah, like the first thing I thought they might do was open with the title match because they've done
Yeah,
that before, I
yeah. Mox has
think.
done that. Done like when he was interim champ. Now, spoiler alert, he won. Mox
Right,
won.
right.
Uh,
Like, didn't Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega or Bryan Danielson, Kenny Omega, didn't
was he
that open
champion?
the
I don't think he was champion though.
that's what I care.
I
I
can't remember.
probably not. But it was a draw, so I'm also not sure.
Yeah, and it got a five
Um,
stars.
yeah, and so we should have been like somewhat tipped off at the beginning of this that this is very strange to a not just a title match, but your one major men's championship
Yeah.
in the middle of a 2-hour show.
hmm
And it started at I think 9 p.m. is when you texted me about the match coming up next. And I was like, oh, like, are we gonna get like a 60-minute,
Oh
slugfest type
no.
thing? And
8:56 is when I told you. 8:56.
yeah, so I mean, there's not really much to break down with the match. It was a total squash.
Basically.
It's a total CM Punk lost. Spoiler if you haven't, I don't know if you
Spoiler
care and
again.
you're also not watching the show for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, he is not the champion. There was a moment where he kicked Mox in the head. That was like the only offense he got in, and he fell to the floor in what looked like a cell job to me. That he was like nursing the foot. And then Mox picked him up for the paradigm shift. JR didn't call the finisher. He like addressed it as like a like he was saying like Mox was suplexing him, and I'm like, I think that was the paradigm shift, dude. Like,
Yeah. I mean,
and
JR is
then
also getting old, so
yeah, I don't know if
uh,
you noticed this because it was like such a quick match, but the way Mox pinned CM Punk
hmm
was like he knew it was over.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do like a, you know,
That too.
there are like a lot of different types of pins where like you're purposely pinning the guy in a way that he can get his shoulder up,
hmm
just in case like prevent any sort of botches. But like the way Mox pinned him, he like was
Like
like already
squash.
pumping his fist,
Yeah,
like
it's
he
like
won.
exactly.
Yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, it was like it was like he just like classic Jericho, classic strong man, like just
Yeah,
one foot on top of the chest and flexing 1, 2, 3 Wardlow
right, like
style.
the
What
classic
Wardlow's been doing.
Lionheart,
Yeah,
Lionheart, uh,
that's like
Stargate
that, but
Kid.
it was the equivalent of that. And
Yeah, it
I
was.
get what you're saying. Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. Like
Yeah,
he like knew.
it was a weird look as a viewer because I was watching it and I'm like, I mean, I'm like 90% sure he just did his finisher, and now he's pinning him in a way that looks like he already knows. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously they already know what's going to happen. But like he like he's not hiding the fact that this is not a kick out. This is like a
Yeah,
very
exactly.
definitive pin.
Not 2.99999. Wasn't gonna be that.
And
One thing
then
I did want to say though is like
yeah, yeah.
even though like that happened, like what like I gotta go back and watch it again. This is our like literal reactions after the match.
Yeah, we like are like, having trouble processing what just happened because I don't think
Yeah.
either of us expected this.
Again, like I said at the beginning, like we don't know if this is a work shoot. We'll find out after. I'm sure we'll even make put it
Yeah.
in the description. We
Dave
got work.
Meltzer's
We got
working
yeah.
overtime right now.
I
He's
know he's trying to.
texting
He's like
everybody.
calling. He's probably like flying out to the show right now. I was like, I need to know.
What the
But
fuck was that?
so basically, like, like was there? I want to. I got to go back again and see if there was a point in time where like maybe they could have snuck and said, hey, I got we got to call it. I'm hurt. Because then then if there was a way like the maybe the ref related like yeah we're calling it, then
Yeah.
that's another way Mox could have been like yeah it's over like no way he's kicking out. That's one way,
The
but it doesn't seem
yeah.
that way as far as like from what we remember. What can we recall from watching the match just now?
The initial reaction felt like it was a work.
Right.
Like Punk was selling. I will say, like, I mean, again, like you said, we probably have to watch it back because it was so brief, but like the kick looked kind of stiff. I mean, it's Punk and Mox, like they work kind of stiff. I'm pretty sure Mox prefers to actually get kicked in the
Mox
head.
is more stiff than any, and one of the stiff
Yeah.
workers for sure.
So, he's kind of like Lesnar. He's like, nah, man, really hit me. Like, I don't do
Sure.
any of this, like, don't stomp the ring and try to punch me sort of thing. Like fucking kick me in the head.
I don't know.
Um,
Braun Strowman would disagree with you in that
that's true.
statement. So
Even Brock has his limits.
yeah,
But yeah, so it looked like kind of a stiff shot. And then the way he fell to the ground, though, you know what? I feel kind of bad saying this because
yeah,
I don't want to pile on Punk too much.
sure.
But the
You're a
way
Punk
he
fan.
fell to the ground
Yeah,
to me just looked like another sloppy Punk botch. Like it just
an
looked
a
like,
goy ring
yeah,
rust
it just
Punk.
looked like this dude's old, like he's not good at wrestling anymore. And he tried to do a kick and then he like slipped and then he's like tried to save it by, pretending to sell his foot.
Yeah.
Um, and the match is over. And I think one of the things I wanted to talk about was that so okay, the only other time in recent memory that something like this happened, even though I don't think it was for a title at the time,
Hmm.
was the famous match now where Goldberg squashed Lesnar in like 1 minute
Yeah.
at Survivor Series.
Yeah.
And it blew everyone's not minds, and they were like,
Blew
holy
my
shit,
mind.
like
I
one of the
watched that shit.
greatest, yeah, like one of the greatest swerve and then pops of
Yeah.
any match. Because nobody saw it coming.
Fun fact, you said it was like, wow, they made the first match even worse. Little did you know, you fell in love with it after.
Oh man, and then I loved their WrestleMania match. But anyway, so that was the last time I remember like a definitive two main eventers and one of them just annihilating the other one. But
Yeah.
that match between Brock and Goldberg, even though it was short, it was like pretty well put together. It was like
Yeah. Yeah.
uh what was it? Goldberg like jumped over the spear or something. I forget exactly how they
You mean,
structured
oh,
it,
you mean
but
Brock?
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's what it was. Brock got speared immediately, and then he got speared again, and then he got hit with a jackhammer, and it
That
was
was
over.
it.
And then he jumped over the spear in the WrestleMania match.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it was like two main eventers and one of them squashing the other. We were like, what
Hmm.
just happened?
Hmm.
And so this is the only other time I can remember that. But after the Lesnar Goldberg match, they talked about that angle, and people talked about that angle
Hmm.
for a while after
Yeah.
the match.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people are definitely going to be talking about this like we are. But AEW just went to the next segment. Like they just had their champion, their actual champion, pinned within the matter of 2 minutes.
Yeah. I don't even know how long that shit was.
They like he's hobbling out of the ring and they just like cut to Christian who like is doing a promo on Jungle Boy, which
And
is
then
going to be a
Ricky
banger
Starks. Yeah.
match all out by the way. But what did you think of the way they handled this? To me, at least my initial reaction is that Tony Khan was like, get out. Like
Yeah.
you were my hero. I wanted to sign you, but then it turns out you're kind of an asshole, which we all could have told him. CM Punk's like
Yeah.
kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
And he was just like, okay, I'm not going to let you book yourself. So you're not the champion anymore and you can go home.
Yeah.
That's how it felt.
I mean, you probably hit it on the nose. You could be way off the nose. I don't know anymore. I really don't know with this company.
Very good chance
With
I could be extremely
WWE,
wrong.
it's much more clear because we knew how Vince worked. Now we don't know
Yes.
because, well, we kind of know how Trips works because we saw his work in NXT. So we know exactly what he's going to book almost.
Yeah.
With this company, because it before everyone, like especially like the guys that helped create the company, Cody, the Young Bucks, Jericho, all said like there's no writers.
Hmm.
Creative was all basically all the wrestlers. Then that changed, and it's like Tony was like, you gotta. It's like Tony's final say. So
Yeah.
Tony is pretty much creative. It's his say. What he says is what goes. So this was I can like if this is not a work, or is it whatever this is, whatever's going on right now, no way in hell was Punk gonna tap. No way in hell was Punk gonna let himself lose clean because he's arrogant. Come on, let's face it. He's an arrogant guy. He's always been arrogant. Always thought he should have been main event at WrestleMania, which he should have. No,
He
not
was
gonna lie.
right. Back then he was
Yeah,
right.
right now,
Yeah.
he got paid. He said he'd come back for loads of money. He said that.
Yep.
Like that's not. Don't be a shocked Pikachu face. Like that's what he said he would come back for was bags of
Yes.
money. Guess what? He got it. He got to sit at home. Granted, it was because of an injury, and Tony Khan, I'm pretty sure, and AEW paid for his medical expenses, uh, to sit at home and collect that money. And then now it comes that allegedly it comes out that he's not happy. Go fuck yourself. Are you kidding me? It's like you haven't done shit. You had good to okay matches. You haven't had a banger of a match. Like you're not doing what
No.
Darby's done. You're not doing what even what about to do because Christian can still go
Oh yeah.
and it's weird because he's older. But to be fair, like I don't know. It's just Christian's always been involved with wrestling for even when he was, retired and hurt. Punk
Yeah.
was a failed UFC wrestler who thought he could do, he can go because he took a couple Muay Thai classes and did wrestling that he
Right.
could make the
Watched a
transition
couple of
to
Joe Rogan podcasts and thought he could fucking get in the octagon.
sure,
Yeah.
absolutely. I don't know. He, it's really, really, really weird what's going on right now. You either love Punk, you hate Punk, or you don't get Punk, or you never like Punk. Right now, like I was happy when he came back for the people who were a fan. I personally never cared if he did or did not come back. It was cool seeing everyone's reaction. It was cool falling in line, like seeing a guy that I did watch wrestling. I used to pick him in SmackDown vs. Raw '08 all the time.
Literally all the time, I
Him,
remember.
Lashley, and my creative character. I picked because he had two dope ass moves. The fucking
Yeah.
go to sleep and the Anaconda Vice was awesome. He
Yeah.
was different, and he also at the time he had dope ass entrance music. He still had dope ass entrance music after. So yeah, he was different. Obviously I stopped watching wrestling for a while, so I didn't know the Summer Punk stuff. But like right now, it's like I really did not care. It's like yeah, Punk. They should have just taken the title off of him once he got hurt. But they did the interim angle, which is fine too. I like that, and that's another whole other topic that we'll get into one day.
Yeah, we won't spend too
Yeah,
much time on
but
it.
like it was cool. Like fuck it, let's see if he can actually go. And now that won't get answered because it's either ego that's getting in the way of seeing if Punk can actually go with Mox, who I think is a pretty good damn wrestler. Not technically sound. He's a brawler. He's not technical like Jericho and
Yeah.
Bryan.
But Mox knows what he is. Like
Exactly.
he's
He's a
not
brawler.
trying to be Shawn Michaels. Like
Absolutely not. He's a brawler. He knows what
yeah.
he came from the school of backyard wrestling essentially
Yeah.
and CZW and doing death matches. Like he knows what he is. He's a brawler and he likes to bleed. He likes to blade. He does GCW shows.
Yeah.
So,
Works stiff.
yeah. So
It's
I respect what he is and that's what I like. He's not showboaty. It's just something. It's like that's what like some people say, like trying to defend Mox and like how people don't get why they like him is because he's like that kind of old school like wrestler too, knit and gritty brawler. Even
yeah.
though
He's
he
also
has
like
brawler
very
plus
he's
more.
very blue collar.
Yeah,
Like he doesn't
something
really
like
have ring gear. He wears
yeah,
like a vest sometimes.
yeah,
He like walks through the crowd. Like he's very almost like he's almost just like a this generation's Mick Foley of just like
Sure.
he could
Yeah.
be anyone in the audience. Like
Yeah.
right down to the way he enters the ring, literally
hmm
walking through the audience.
Which is what he does, and yeah, that's what the entrance is pretty much speaks to in a way.
Yeah, man of the
Drank beer,
people.
doesn't drink anymore, obviously.
No,
He's
but
just
yeah.
yeah, he's a very blue collar. I love that. I love that you said that. That's exactly what it speaks to. And he's just a down to earth kind of dude, man. He's really
Yeah.
like if you ever hear him talk, it's exactly what you're gonna get in the ring when he does his promos. He's like just that's who he is, and
You
I
know, the other
respect
thing
that.
about Mox too is that, and this at one point this was true about CM Punk, and like
Yep. Mm-hmm.
what happens to a lot of people, it gets beaten out of them in WWE. But
Mm-hmm.
Mox still loves wrestling.
Yeah.
And I don't think CM Punk has loved wrestling. Like he got back in the ring, like you said, for a fat bag. He came back.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really love wrestling, it doesn't take a fat bag.
Exactly.
And so I don't think I think there's a lot of the people who don't like CM Punk because
Yeah.
I don't even know if there is an in between really. I think it's
Yeah.
like you either love CM Punk or you're just like, dude, get this guy off my screen.
Yeah.
It's that he's like kind of a sellout in
Mm-hmm.
like he's just about the money. He doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really care about the product anymore.
No matter what the promo says, like, yeah, I came back to like face these young
right,
guns. Like,
right.
you sure about that?
I
After
was gonna
this.
say like I think what part of what makes this feel like not an angle, at least not in the sense that people are thinking like,
Sure.
oh, this is good 3 months down the line, he's gonna come back, and I'm like, dude, what I saw from his debut in AEW,
Mm-hmm.
all the pomp and circumstance, the fucking like 10-minute entrance, they played his song like 3 times in a row,
Mm-hmm.
like from that moment, like people to think back to that debut in AEW, that was
Mm-hmm.
electric,
Yeah.
and how he was written off at the end of this match, that does not seem like someone who Tony Khan is interested in anymore. That seems like go home, like sit out the rest of your contract. Who knows how long that contract is?
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I guess this is another thing that we should get into now. Just like, there's a lot of talk about whether or not this is a work or, what's going on. And AEW has had this happen now 2 times in a row, at least with the
Yeah.
most recent big angles of whether or not this is a work or a shoot or a combination. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter because it's not going to lead to anything. Because
Yeah.
when MJF came out and cursed everybody out and called Tony Khan a mark and said to fire him and all that, he got sent home and everybody was like, what's he gonna do next week? Nothing. We haven't seen him for like 3 months. And CM Punk, I mean, to me, the match seemed like if you were gonna fantasy book or try to predict what might have happened,
Mm-hmm.
assuming this whole situation with him being mad about his booking didn't happen. To me, it seemed like Punk wins over Moxley. MJF comes out at the end of the show.
Right.
MJF Punk it all out.
Yep.
Because the whole like if we went back and listened to that episode we did when uh MJF came out and said all that stuff, I'm pretty sure we were saying the match that you have to do is Punk versus MJF for the title. Like that's the money match.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
what. Yeah, I
eventually you
remember.
do
Yeah.
MJF versus Wardlow. Like then that's a money match. But I that's over. Like the MJF stuff, it now it really doesn't matter because this guy that he should have faced is gone for a while. And the other thing that I saw was like people who were asking like, well, is he, is the injury, is that a work? Like, is he actually still injured? And it got me thinking like, okay, so just to be clear here, the options are that this is a work and he's not really injured. And in that case, it's like, then this doesn't make sense why you'd take the title off of the guy that you paid so much money to
Yeah.
and like bent over backwards to put the belt on him in the first place. Or they inexplicably had him come back too early and he is when they already had a new champion and he's actually injured. And in which case it's like, why did you bring him back? Like were they so shook from Triple H taking over that they were like, Tony was like, I don't care if you're healthy or not. get back. Like we need you for the pay-per-view or the next
Right.
show, pop a like. So if that's the other potential event that happened, that is so insanely stupid when you already had like nothing changed, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
if that's the case, Mox was already the champion. You didn't
Right.
need to make him the champion again. Like he already had the title.
Right.
Like you could have even just said, "All right, we're taking the interim thing off because Punk's going to be gone longer than we thought."
Yeah, just
And it
promote him
like
to undisputed. Got it.
right, like the same, you would have had the same results. So then I'm like, okay, so if people are talking about this idea, because there's a lot of theories going around right now, but if they're talking about this idea that Punk is actually injured, I'm like, then why did he come back? The guy's like 50 years old. He's too old to be coming back early from injuries.
Yeah.
And so I'm very confused about where this is headed now because there's no potentially there is no match you could reasonably realistically book for the pay-per-view that would make any sort of sense for
I,
Moxley.
yeah, at this point you're right. Right now the card is it's not underwhelming, but it's not overwhelming either. It's not something like you're jumping up and down for joy, not like Forbidden Door. It's not that.
Yeah.
What we got today is yes, it's like it's a match mirroring what happened with MJF, but as of right now, we just don't actually know what exactly is going on with MJF. It was a more it broke before his matches that he was unhappy. He was
Right.
about it looks like he was about to no show his match. He was about to fuck over Wardlow. No, he wound up, doing the good deed and, putting over Wardlow and getting squashed. And he didn't and it was not competitive. He got squashed.
No.
Just
Like
like
10 power
yeah,
bombs or
like
something.
CM Punk, he got squashed. Um,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
could tell he wasn't happy though afterwards. He did sell it, but when he came out to do his promo, he he didn't he just he shot and said,
Yeah.
"Fuck this! I'm
Yeah.
not getting paid. I want more money." And and now looking out now, if you think about it, looking back at that, he probably deserves it more over Punk
Dude,
because
I said MJF was right. Like
yeah,
he didn't say anything wrong. He also had all that stuff about, ex WWE guys get treated better. He
yeah.
wasn't like that's the only reason CM Punk was even ham-fisted into being the AEW champion in the first
Yeah.
place.
And also because it would pop ratings. And hey, look, I
Yeah.
recall last time you were very happy about that he won the title. I wanted Hangman to win, but
Oh
no.
yeah, because I just
Oh,
for
you don't.
Hangman for me just isn't working yet. I think he'll get there, but I just
Yeah,
mainstream
sure.
the mainstream like company decision, it made
Hmm.
sense to have CM Punk. I did also say that CM Punk is not even a top 20 wrestler in the company.
Oh, absolutely not. And I agree with you
Which
too. Like
if anything, I should put him even lower on the list.
he's not even
Uh,
top 50. Like Will
yeah,
Hobbs is somewhere like higher up there for
his
sure.
actual wrestling talent is like AEW dark levels of like
Ooh, hot take, hot
he's
tamale. We're
dude,
gonna get a lot of hate.
I remember like several years ago I said that if CM Punk wrestled in the present day with like classic black and gold NXT days
Hmm.
that he wouldn't be special because when he was in WWE he actually was arguably the best wrestler in the company, but that was because WWE didn't have a lot of wrestlers, and he went to a company now that has some of the best wrestlers in the world.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, when they first started, you could probably argue Kenny Omega was the best wrestler in the world,
Oh, absolutely. And I
and
think Kenny
like
Omega could
CM
still move.
right, like CM Punk was never the best in the world. That was a gimmick, but I think he probably did believe it at least a little bit.
Maybe. And
But in
the crowd ate it up.
dude in AEW, he never had the it passed him by. I don't know how else to say it. He sat out for his prime, and by the time he came back, he was too old, and his body failed him.
Hmm.
And then he failed himself because he's an arrogant dickhead who just
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's too harsh, but he's like one of these guys who like we see this in baseball sometimes because
Hmm.
Frankie and I watch too much baseball. But like there's certain guys who don't know when it's time to hang it up.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to see because they're not good anymore. And you remember back when they were good. And like I remember Pedro Martinez when he was just getting lit up on the Phillies. And I was like, God, this fucking sucks, man. Like this guy used to absolutely stuff people into lockers.
Yeah.
And CM Punk came back and like pretty much all his matches had multiple botches. And we all kept saying, like, well, ring rust, he'll get better. It's like, I don't think you get better at like in your mid 40s after you
Hmm.
took like 7 years off.
Yeah,
It
and
just,
multiple surgeries, messed up back. Like it's just like,
yeah. And like, I saw someone say, like, well, maybe the foot injury was worse than they thought. And I'm like, then you shouldn't have brought him back
yeah,
for like randomly to try to like sell the pay-per-view, but then you move the match off the pay-per-view.
right. That's where all the speculation comes in, though. Like it's all just
Yeah.
pure speculation. Whereas like we don't
Yeah.
really know what's going on behind the scenes. It could just be a rumor starter. It could be someone just feeding to the dirt sheet saying like, yeah, there's turmoil backstage. And really it could just be for all we care, it's Punk who fed this and said and it's all bullshit. He's actually being a good guy and saying, yeah, just take the title off me and make me look like a bad guy, turn me heel down the line and I
Oh
will
yeah.
turn here. And this fixes a lot of things, but we just don't know. Everything's speculation. Right now, we're just kind of feeding into the speculation. We're feeding into
Oh
the
yeah.
tea. Um, I'm of course I'm a little sour because I don't think Punk should have ever been champion, and we got something that shouldn't have didn't need to be on TV essentially almost.
I
But
mean,
it
pretty
happened.
much.
It happened. It's done and over with. It, was it will it bring attention? Absolutely. It's gonna talk. It's gonna be the talk of the town. It's gonna be the talk of the town until probably until all out for sure. Like what's gonna happen? Is Punk done? We don't know. And it's bringing
Right.
eyes and it's bringing viewership and it's bringing the clicks to AEW and that's what they want. Is it gonna? And that's what happened with MJF. They brought the clicks. It brought a lot of views that they wanted. It needs the mainstream attention. It needs
Yeah.
all of that, and that's what's gonna happen. And it's good for them. Should they have gone a different way about it? Maybe, probably, but thank God I'm not the one in charge. I'm not the one in charge, and it's also a reason why you shouldn't let all your talent be in charge of their stories, essentially, because
Yeah.
like I think as much as we hated Vince and the booking and the creative team at WWE, they had it right. Like that's why there's a team. It's to filter stuff and to have
I
control.
I will say I think Tony needs to hire some writers. I
Uh,
think I don't think he should be the only voice in the room anymore.
if not writers, just like you need to have a strong creative team, which involves,
Yeah.
like someone like Sanjay Dutt, who is a seasoned wrestler, maybe do the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, have him on your team, and
He would
maybe
be
like
great.
one one active like mid timer or not mid time part timer and like Dustin Rhodes, who everyone loves. Apparently, he's a great teacher, great mentor to
Yeah.
that locker room. It's like so much is happening. So much is just like it's all pure speculation. I'm not going to be a sour wrestling fan. I'm not going to fall into like, that toxic wrestling fan. We're not being toxic. We're just merely trying to like understand what's going on because not only we're not excited, we're just confused. Um, and the way I am
Yeah.
excited, I'm happy Mox is, getting finally because let's face it too. He got screwed because of the pandemic. He literally was
Oh yeah.
he was the seatless champion. He was the voiceless champion. He was just putting on matches, not knowing if he was over or not, and just going by comments in YouTube and Facebook and all the video pages
Dude, I
basically.
remember Drew McIntyre did the same thing,
Yeah,
and
and
it
he was
sucked,
great.
man. It
It
sucked. It
sucked, but
was
he was good. He was really
yeah.
good.
No, it
Yeah,
sucked for like just you put in all that work and then you win the title, AEW, WWE, whatever,
yeah,
and there's nobody in the stands.
yeah,
Nobody.
yeah. He
Like
deserved a
yeah,
crowd
Mox definitely deserves it.
when he beat whoever he beat. I already forgot. Did he beat Brock?
Yeah, he pinned him at WrestleMania in
That's
an
him.
empty arena. Yeah.
And then we had to go through Vince having Roman and and Brock. How many times
Right.
after that? I don't know.
I wanted to ask, so there are 3 shows left before the pay-per-view.
Mhm,
There's Rampage this week, there's Dynamite next Wednesday, and then there's Rampage again Friday. So they
mhm.
got 3 shows.
So two pre-tapes
Who do
that we
you
got.
think? Because you can't. There's no way you're gonna sell that pay-per-view with no AEW title match. Who do you think faces Mox at All Out?
It's probably gonna have to be someone from New Japan. With the rumors, I think Kota Ibushi's gone from or his contract's up. Could be you could just insert Kota and they can have a
Could they get
banger match.
Okada? I
They
know
could
they
try and get
wanted him
Okada.
for they wanted him in a bigger, they didn't want him in in the New Japan match. I think they originally wanted him versus, what was it, Mox? Yeah, him versus Mox for the
The
AEW
interim.
belt.
Yeah, for the interim. But I truly don't know what you do from here other than you have Mox do like an open challenge and then out comes MJF or out comes someone we just don't know. I don't
That's what
know.
I think is going to happen. Like if I had to bet money, I would think that Tony, who has now seemingly already had to break glass in case of emergency, or the
Word.
and like briefly, I will say like I don't know if some of this is just inexperience, and Tony had a Vince McMahon moment where he just got really mad and was like, you know what, get the fuck off, like just get the fuck out of here.
Hmm.
And
Could
like he
be.
didn't take a moment to think about like, well, wait a minute, how am I gonna sell this pay-per-view without how am I gonna book a title match that anyone cares about in three shows? Um, I I think it's gonna be MJF. The only thing that makes me hesitant about that is that he would need to win in
Hmm.
my eyes if you're gonna even though the MJF stuff is ice cold.
Yeah.
Having him get pinned is not great unless you want to send him down the card to face Wardlow for the TNT title, which I think is still on the show,
Yeah.
even though they don't really do
He
much
won't be
with it.
defending it.
Yeah,
He won't be
uh,
defending it.
I I think it's MJF because otherwise you really are picking from a random group of people that would for some reason. I mean, you could do a multi-man match. I get,
Mm.
you could throw like Malik. I don't know if Malachi's not injured anymore, but you could
He wasn't.
Andrade. Like, I mean, they don't really have. I mean, this is some of this isn't their fault because of injuries, but they don't really have a backup challenger who would like a single challenger who would make sense.
Hmm.
So, like you said, someone from New Japan again. Like, you kind of saw this a little bit with Forbidden Door. Not everyone in AEW knows who some of those guys are.
Yeah, not
Um,
everyone. Like they get like it's weird because um, I think Ollie said it in Wrestle Talk like when this week, spoiler alert, Johnny Gargano came back to WWE.
spoiler,
There
yeah.
was there was a huge delay when his music popped. Like, and I'm
Yes.
like, no, yeah, I really don't know who Johnny Gargano is. Come on.
Yeah.
And then that's when like those diehards were like, oh,
They were like,
and he
holy
still got
shit,
a
oh my fucking God.
still got a good pop, but it was not like what Daniel
He
Bryan and
I went back and watched
Cole
it
got.
and the pop was better than I thought it was.
No,
I don't know
yeah,
if
for
the
sure.
WWE audio on their upload was kind of screwed up, but it was a pretty loud pop. But again, you bring in someone from NXT who like didn't do anything on the main roster. Those 10-year-old kids are not going to know who he is.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's MJF who faces Mox. I mean, again, look, this is Tony, and he's clearly in some uncharted waters. He could just not have a title match.
I think that'd be kind of dumb, in my opinion.
It
But it's
is.
just,
I
is there
also, but I think moving this match off the pay-per-view was dumb.
that
Like,
too?
even if you were really mad at CM Punk for going into business for himself and he went off script in that promo and all that shit, even if you were really mad at that, you jobbed MJF out at the pay-per-view.
Hmm.
You didn't push that. You didn't like, you didn't like take that off the pay-per-view and then put it on Wednesday and have Wardlow powerbomb him 20 times. Like you could have I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
all
know.
spec.
I
It's hard
just
to say. It's hard to say, man. I get it.
yeah, if you put this match on the pay-per-view with 10 minutes left, people know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
Even though we probably should have known what was going to happen if you put it in the middle of a show with like multiple matches remaining. It's it's going to be interesting. I don't know, maybe we'll do a follow-up when we like know more. Um,
Yeah, I would like to do a follow up and say like, hey, we were wrong or we jumped the gun, which I don't think we're jumping the gun too much. It's in fact we're kind of tamed. I'm sure there's gonna be guys out there saying like Punk's done with this company. Punk is gonna
Oh
go to
yeah.
WWE
There's
and some
people
shit.
like calling Tony Khan an idiot and all that.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
think that's all a little extreme. Maybe this was a situation. You know what this kind of reminds me of now that I'm thinking about it before we run out of time.
Hmm.
When Vince left, quit, resigned, whatever,
Ah,
WWE got
yeah,
fired, and Brock Lesnar was like, "I'm out."
yeah.
And everybody was like, "Holy shit, what are they gonna do? They have a fucking SummerSlam. They only have one like Roman's the double champ, so they can't just like book a different, title match and pull
Yep.
Roman off the show. And cooler heads prevailed. Triple H said, "Let me, talk to him and some other people, I'm sure." And
Hmm.
they got Brock to come back and do the match.
They let him.
And
He came back because they let him do a spot with his
yeah, he
fucking
was like, "I want to
tractor.
do something fucking crazy."
Yeah.
But Triple H has a lot of experience, and he has way more experience than Tony Khan. And so some part of me wonders if there's a little bit lack of experience or maturity in terms of could you have talked to Punk a little bit and gotten a 15-minute match at the pay-per-view, 20-minute match at the pay-per-view, kind of what Brock did
Yeah,
at
yeah,
SummerSlam. And then you're like, well, you're losing, we're sending you home, but
yeah.
like just give us this.
But
And
we'll know.
so
We
I,
won't know
I'm
until the next one then.
I'm
But
curious to see what happens next.
we'll see. But thank you so much, beautiful people, for joining us. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.